Hey, fantasy people, welcome to Razzball Radio and Fantasy Sports Network. Nick Capozzi, and it's Tuesday. Tuesday, we are graced with his beautifulness, Tehol Bedick. Tehol, welcome to Razzball Radio, brother.
Good morning to you, Nick. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, just hanging out, trying to wake up here, pounding coffee, pulling all-nighters and fantasy football.
Well, it's morning for you because you're in Hawaii right now at that bikini model competition because you are a bikini modeling consultant, which you think I'm joking, and I'm not. I got to tell you, though, the way your hair is coiffed like that and with the background, I kind of feel like I'm talking to Max Headroom. Remember Max Headroom from the 80s?
Of course I do,
Yeah.
man. I actually know him. I have an autograph photo in my man cave. He's one of my idols.
Is it a man cave for you, or is it more like a man chateau?
Yeah, it's not quite as gritty and grimy as the normal sports guy. I got some fine art pieces down there. That sort of thing. I still watch sports down there, but it's a little bit more refined than the average man cave, I would say, Nick.
Surrounded by Picassos. Of course, you can follow Tehol on Twitter at Bedick143. Tehol, let's talk about some waiver wire pickups. So I don't know if you know this, but Jonas Gray made some headlines this weekend, putting up 4 touchdowns. Now, I'll tell you this. He's less than 9% owned, but you have to factor in the Belichick factor. I said factor twice in 3 words. I didn't think that was possible. What's the situation here? I mean, are you blowing all your fab dollars on this guy?
I don't know. Like you just said, that's all you got to worry about is the Belichick. This guy might get 6 carries next week just because it's with the game plan for them every week. But he looked real good, and Belichick's going to like what he saw, and I'm assuming they're going to stay going with that because as much as I like Shane Vereen, he's just not a between the tackles grinder. So it's like that. Gray is their best option at this point. He's strong. He's long. He's down to get the friction on. This guy is ready to go. 4 TDs, 8% owned. I dropped this guy 2 weeks ago because of what you said. Belichick was giving him 10 for 30. I mean, it was just like, and then this happens, and it's just like, why? Why is this happening to me? Why is he doing this now? But you got to pick him up, man. I would pay quite a bit for him.
I've been stumping Isaiah Crowell for weeks.
Oh,
24% ownership. But here's what I think. I think they're actually trying to get him to win the job. The fact that he started against the Texans and after fumbling stayed in there tells me that Mike Pettin wants him to win this job. So if you miss out on Jonas Gray, if you just don't have the fab dollars to be competitive on that, listen, Gray is by far the number 1 pickup. I still like Mr. Crowell. He's so dynamic. He's like dynamic like you are, Tehol.
yeah, he's one of my favorites, man. I don't know what the Browns are doing. Like, first off, he obviously was the best running back the whole way. But then again, Terrence West looked really solid last week when he got the bulk of the carries. Next thing you know, he's benched. He's probably asking his mom and wifey or whoever at home, Mom, what am I doing wrong? They're benching me. I just had almost 100 yards and killed it. Got the win. Why am I getting benched? Like Ben Tate just on the psychic hotlines talking to Miss Cleo, wondering what happened to his life. I mean, it's getting out of control for this guy. But, Crowell's the man. I'm a fan. Unfortunately, they got the loss, so who knows who they're going to throw out there next week. Maybe they'll call back our boy Obaniah.
No, come on, man. You know who I think we're going to see, though? And it was funny because I was watching the Cleveland game, and I said I was watching the game with some friends, and I said, you know what? I got a feeling we're going to see Johnny Manziel today because Hoyer's completion percentage was so rough. And then he got real laid out in the third quarter, and you saw Johnny Football starting to warm up. So, but I think he was afraid of getting Wally pipped, so he was sticking in there.
Yeah, man, that completion. His numbers were so gross, and then he got a bunch of garbage time stats and picked up 300 yards somehow. I'm not a Hoyer fan. I wouldn't extend him.
All right, Kobe Fleener, 26% ownership, had a big game this week. I've always liked Fleener. I should say this. I've always liked Fleener's potential. Obviously he had the relationship with Luck coming out of Stanford, but it hasn't transitioned so far in the pros. But if you look at his numbers, they're not terrible. Dwayne Allen dealing with a high ankle sprain. So you're bullish on Mr. Fleener this week?
Yeah, that's what my grade school teachers always told me. Young Tehol, you have a lot of potential, but unfortunately, I didn't live up to what they wanted me to be. But what do you know? What? Still, underwear modeling. Now I'm here with you. What more? Now look at me now. I'm laughing in their faces. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, Fleener, you got to own him, especially if Dwayne Allen is going to miss time. Fleener's just going to get that many more targets. He was already like a decent throw-in if you had to play a tight end just because they throw so much. He's been a little disappointing in his career thus far, but he's back-to-back weeks. There's a bye in between, but you get it 2 games in a row, 2 real solid games. Dwayne Allen goes down, this guy's going to get a ton of targets, and he's a nice threat in the red zone. Luck played college with him. They're the pair. They're good to go. He's a nice addition. Could go off.
I might go with Jacob Tamme short term over Fleener, only because I just think that the offense there is more geared towards tight ends in the red zone, depending on how long Julius Thomas is out. But listen, not a bad option. Not a bad option. All right, speaking of Denver, so C.J. Anderson had a real good game. Looks like Ronnie Hillman now. They're talking more like 6 weeks he's going to be out. Monty Ball, that groin is a mess. A lot of jokes there with ball and a groin. But C.J. Anderson had a real nice game, but here's the thing. He's almost 80% owned going into waivers today, so it's unlikely you're going to get him. You might want to grab Juwan Thompson, though, the backup there, because if Anderson falters or if he gets hurt, Thompson's got about 3% ownership. How do you see that situation playing out, bro?
Jeez, Anderson's up to 80 already?
Yeah.
Wow, people on that quick, man. Juwan's a nice little solid guy there, but I mean, it seems like C.J. Anderson has kind of distanced himself there for the job, at least for the time being, maybe for the rest of the season, the playoffs, depending on what happens with Hillman's injury. Monty Ball, the groin. I mean, the guy's was terrible before anyway. Anderson's great at catching the ball. He's the obvious choice there, but Thompson. If you're late on the waivers or you're at the end there and you just want to get a speculative ad, not a bad call. I agree with you to a certain extent. I'd go with him.
All right, fair enough. Listen, there's a bunch more guys we want to talk about, especially a guy I really want to focus on, Latavius Murray of the Raiders. We're going to get to him and a ton more waiver wire options here on Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Nick Capozzi, Tehol Bedek. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Nick, Tehol, talking waivers. So I teased this coming out of the last segment, Latavius Murray. I love this guy. And, if you're a regular listener here, by the way, you can always find us on iTunes under Razzball Football Podcast. If you want every podcast we put up, baseball, sometimes hockey specials, you can follow us at just Razzball Podcast on iTunes. Of course, you can hit us up at razzballradio.com. Or check us out on the Fantasy Sports Network, 2 p.m. Eastern and 5:30 p.m. Eastern. FantasySportsNetwork.com. We are everywhere, brother.
Woo.
Speaking of everywhere, Latavius Murray was on a flight. My cousin works for an airline. He saw this guy come on the flight. He goes, that guy is a football player, but he thought he was a linebacker. It wasn't. It was Latavius Murray after a night out in L.A. heading back to Oakland. 4.38 40. His pro day at University of Central Florida. 233 pounds, 6'2", looks like a linebacker. I think DMC and MJD are both gone into the season, and they got to start working Latavius Murray in there. I think what's interesting, too, is he had 7 touches last week for 59 yards. I'm all over 0% owned Latavius Murray. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been a believer in this guy since day one. I actually picked this guy up, I think, back in week 1. Just because I love the upside, and he was killing it in preseason. He's obviously got something going there more so than MJD, who's dried up, washed up, finished. Don't get me wrong. I've done interviews with MJD. We're friends. He doesn't like. I guess we're not friends. He doesn't like me. Shockingly,
I thought it was Julio Jones that didn't like you.
No, it was Roddy White. Because I called him Julio Jones.
So Roddy White doesn't like you. MJD doesn't like you.
Well, the Roddy White thing was unintentional. I kept calling him Julio Jones. MJD, it was like he didn't like me dogging Blaine Gabbert. Like, he took offense to it. And like, obviously, we know how that went. Like, Vidic won that battle. Like, what is this guy talking about, dude? I mean, you're going to defend Blaine Gabbert, arguably one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life.
He was looking out for his boy, man.
Yeah, well, look at him now. And the Raiders backup mop-up duty having the worst at getting cut. He'd be out of the NFL after this year. Unfortunately, I still like the guy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go off on him like that. I just hold a grudge. I mean, he held it against me. it's on. It's kind of a feud. But Murray, this guy needs to get the ball. But they're 0-10 or something. I mean, this is like they're holding out, still grinding it out with. I mean, I like McFadden as much as anybody, but I mean, he just doesn't. What he once had is now gone, and Murray could be the future there. They just need to see what they have. And I mean, you think they would have started this a couple games ago. So he gave them a spark, and they came back a little bit in the ugly game against San Diego. And I like him to get a bunch more work this week.
All right, I teased Jacob Tammy earlier when we were talking about Kobe Fleener. How do you see him playing out in that Denver offense?
Well, if Julius Thomas misses even a week or two, you got to get this guy in there. You know, his owners in general probably want to use their number one waiver on him this week just in case that Thomas is out. Tammy got 10 targets last week after Julius went out, which is crazy, even though they got manhandled by the Rams last week. I mean, that was a crazy game. But yeah, Tam got 10 targets. And he's always kind of been a reliable Manning favorite from back in with the Colts days, and now he's back there. It's kind of the only reason he's on the team. I'm not as huge a fan, but he's got solid hands and he's a nice red zone threat. And he's as good as bet as anyone for them to get a TD this week, especially if Emmanuel Sanders misses time also.
All right, Blake Bortles has some tasty matchups coming up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I really like his matchups going forward. He's got Indy secondary, which, I mean, you've seen torched by multiple teams, including Tom Brady, just kind of, well, a lot of Jonas Gray, but Brady gave it to him. Big Ben dropped 6 on him. I mean, you got the Giants coming up. We've seen the Giants are just laying down. This is just really Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie just looks like he just wants the season over, like right now. I mean,
Giants are terrible.
Yeah, and then we got Houston secondary, Baltimore secondary, Tennessee secondary. Houston's played okay lately, but the talent's just not there in the secondary. I don't see it at all. Baltimore's without Jimmy Smith. You know, where Tennessee, you saw him last night, not a ton of talent in that secondary. So he's got some real nice matchups, and as you know, they throw till the end of the game all day long, trying to get him work, getting the young receivers work. So there's always the chance for multiple garbage TDs, and that's kind of what you're hoping for. 2 QB league could be a nice option.
Yeah, Bortles is a guy I think I'm going to be high on. I want to see what Jacksonville obviously does in the offseason, but I think he's a guy I'm going to be high on going into 2015.
He's no Blaine Gabbert.
He is not. All right, rare defense on this list, buddy. You got the Packers D. Talk to me.
Well, their defense was playing pretty bad early on, and then they've kind of shifted Clay Matthews to this kind of hybrid role where he's playing middle linebacker, but then they're switching him outside. He's rushing. Somehow, I've seen 2 weeks in a row now, offenses somehow there's certain plays where he's just unaccounted for. I've seen this guy coming free like multiple times. It's like, okay, what are you guys doing? The one guy on their defense you might want to throw a block on is rushing free off the edge. Like, it's confusing, but at the same time, whatever. It's working for them. Peppers looks inspired. They got Shields back in the defensive backfield. They're kind of healthy back there. They're scoring so many points that they're putting pressure on the opposing team to do the same thing. So, you know, they're making some high-risk plays, and the Packers are capitalizing, getting interceptions, taking them house, doing all kinds of stuff. So they're looking real good to have a lot of tasty matchups other than New England at home coming up. But other than that, they're looking good. The defense has put up a lot of points the last 2 weeks.
I got to give you some props, man. You dug up some real gems on this one. It's a great option with the Packers D. It's a good point. Other than New England, you got Minnesota, Tampa, Buffalo. That is pretty tasty. I like that. I like that kind of logic.
Eat that up.
I want to get into Kristen Michael, but I want to do that after the break because I got a man crush on Kristen Michael. Been holding him every league, but let's get to that after the break. But just before we go to break, Tehol, just curious, how is the hot bikini contest going in Hawaii right now?
There's a lot of women around, not very many men. The men that are around are not what you would call
because you just consult now. You don't model anymore, right? You just help the.
Right,
what do you do? Yeah. Do you actually help the women put on the bikinis?
I do. I'm kind of like a stylist. I'll be like, no, take that off. We gotta go put the full G-string back on. That's not working. We need to show as much skin as humanly possible. Some of these girls get a little they're trying to, they like certain color. What I'm like, no, it's all about just full moon shots. Like we don't,
All right,
we
you got to
don't.
listen to Tehol, not just for fantasy advice. This is Razzball Radio on the Fantasy Sports Network. We'll be right back. Back, Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Nick Capozzi, Tehol Bedick at Bedick143 on Twitter. Before the break, we talked about Bikini Consulting as well as Kristen Michael. Now, this is a pure speculation play, but I've been kind of a dummy. Every year, I kind of get on one guy who I think, if given the opportunity, is going to become a first-round talent. One of my bold predictions this year was that in 2015, we're going to see Andre Ellington and Kristen Michael go in the first round next year. I was thinking Lynch might get hurt, and if he doesn't get hurt, try and kind of extend his shelf life. Why are you picking up Kristen Michael right now?
I'm picking him up right now because Lynch is totally banged up. I mean, the guy's back is. I'm just waiting. I've been waiting for his back to just go out. I mean, this guy's had spasms for years now, maybe like his whole career, but it seems like it's something that's getting worse and worse. There's been a couple games where he hasn't even started right at the beginning because he wasn't ready yet because he hasn't warmed up enough. He's on the bike trying to get the back loose. This last week at halftime, or they were saying he's questionable to even return at halftime because he had some kind of minor knee injury or something that he toughed out. I mean, the guy's a soldier. Like, he's going to go out there and bang out if he can go.
Tough as nails.
So I just feel like, but he's just reaching a point where I feel like he's almost destined to miss at least a game or two. And if you can get Michael in there get any chance whatsoever, he's going to go up. I'm like you said, I'm surprised they haven't, mixed him in a little bit more, as you said, to preserve the shelf life of Lynch. But it looks like they're just going to run him till the wheels fall off and possibly move on after this year, as it's getting kind of awkward between the front office.
Kind of awkward.
Which is hard to believe because he's been so great this year and kind of proven.
I know, but he's got a track record of being a knucklehead.
Yeah.
I watched him for a bunch of years in Buffalo. There was a lot of incidents there. He's a bit of a knucklehead.
He probably didn't like him. I can't picture Marshawn liking it up in Buffalo too much.
I'm going to tell you this. Buffalo is an underrated city. No question about it. Actually, man, you can party hard in Buffalo, believe it or not. I got a lot of.
What's going on up in Buffalo? A lot of Applebee's up there, or what?
No, man, they know how to have a good time, man. You go to downtown Buffalo on a Friday, Saturday night. It is bumping. Here's the thing: the Rust Belt is underrated. Yeah, they've lost a ton of people, and the economy's not in a great spot, but Buffalo knows how to have a good time. No question about that.
Why was Mario? What was Mario Williams? The reason I said Applebee's, no offense, I was talking about I like Applebee's. I was saying, like, what was Mario Williams was like? Well, there's just not much to do here. I mean, there's an Applebee's and that's about it. And I was like, okay.
Well, if you're out in the suburbs, you got like the Walden Galleria. Sorry, we're spending too much time on Buffalo here, but you go downtown, man. But Buffalo, look, it's not a huge downtown, but you can have a good time in Buffalo. Plus, man, you got wings.
Okay, I'm coming through.
Kenny Britt.
Okay, Britt. Okay, yeah, he had a nice game against Denver. Yeah, what, he had $120 or something, and a long TD on him.
Yeah, 4 for 128 and a touchdown. Yeah. Sean Hill, veteran quarterback, looking for the veteran receiver.
Yeah, Austin Davis, thanks for smell you later, buddy. Thanks for the hype and everyone. Oh, the next Kurt Warner, the next year, Britt. Get out of here, man. Make way for Sean Hill. He's coming in. He's hitting Britt deep. Britt, the guy, I can't believe I ever said that. I won't even say his name. Or actually, I will say his name. Stedman Bailey. I mentioned that guy on this show. That's the biggest mistake I've ever made. And I'll never do it again. And I'll never give that guy props.
You broke up with Paris Hilton at one point. Isn't that on your high mistake list?
Man, but that was before she had all kinds of STDs that end up being a major win.
No, he's joking. I'm
joking. She doesn't, but whatever. I'm bitter. She dumped me. God, I'll never get over it. But still, whatever. Paris, if you're watching this, call me Rick Solomon or whichever weirdo you did.
Dude,
come back.
All right, sorry, man. I shouldn't have. I understand that your relationship with her did not end well. I shouldn't have gone there. I apologize. Paris Hilton is lovely. She's a wonderful girl.
Yeah, she is. She really is. But Britt, he's their number one. He looks good out there. He's their big play guy, and if you're desperate, throw him in there.
Ruben Randall, how is he down to 35% ownership? I mean, was everyone getting on the Odell Beckham train? Is that what happened here, and they started dropping Randall? Because 35%, that surprised me.
Yeah, he was kind of a hot commodity before the season to an extent. I was a believer. I thought he was kind of going to step up with Nick's gone there and be a real nice, opposite of Cruz with Beckham coming in there. Now Cruz is done. The problem is the best cornerbacks were, or at least before Beckham started getting off, the best corners were lining up on Randall, just locking him down. He's just not an elite guy, so the top-notch corners are just able to lock him down fairly easily. So he's not separating from them. But now that Beckham's getting off, he might get the second DB on him, and he's able to produce a little bit this last week. And going forward, he's got Dallas, Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Washington. A lot of those teams have horrible DB situations. I think you saw the Redskins just get absolutely torched by Mike Evans, another guy dropped a couple weeks back who's just made me cry every night since. But him and Jonas Gray would look good in my lineup yesterday. Dallas, they got Scandrick. He'll probably be on Beckham. That's a nice fit there. And then they'll probably be throwing a lot. So I think he's got some good matchups, and if you're desperate, throw him in. He's got a good chance to have a good game. I mean, Eli Manning, though. I mean, this guy. How long do you put up? I mean, you get the 2 Super Bowls. Like, it's just getting out of hand. Like, I thought last year or whatever, had this crazy amount of picks. It's just unacceptable, man. I don't know what this guy's doing out there.
All right, Brandon Cooks out 2 to 4 weeks with a busted digit. Kenny Stills worth picking up?
I would say so, especially with Cooks out. Somebody's got to pick up the extra targets.
The only problem is that offense is so up and down.
Right. It's probably hard to figure what's going to really go down there. But Colston is, what he is. Graham is going to get a ton of targets, probably even more so. But somebody's got to spread them out. And Stills, to me, has looked really good. He had a TD last week, and he gets the Ravens this upcoming week with, again, my man Jimmy Smith, who I've always been a huge fan of, finally became one of the best corners in the league, and he's out for the season. The Ravens secondary has really struggled ever since. So he has as good a chance as anybody you can find on waivers is getting a score or 2 this week.
Right.
I like him.
We got to wrap this up. Say sorry to Paris one more time.
Paris, please. If you're listening, please just All right,
we got to go. Tehol, you're terrible, man. Put it in an email.
Call me.
This is Razzball Radio, Fantasy Sports Network. Follow him on Twitter, Bedick143. Have a great day. See you tomorrow with Rob Langevin.